Hey, it's Adam Colazetti, and this is the Culture Hack. Today we have on Blaine McGillivray. He's the president of WellnFlex. He's been in the benefits industry for 20 years, and he's going to talk to us about what he sees as the future of benefits in terms of service, in terms of building relationships, and how technology can meet that need. It's going to be really interesting. Come check it out. Hello, welcome to the Culture Hack. We are here in studio, which is super exciting. I have with me Blaine McGillivray. He is the president of WellnFlex, and he's been in the benefit industry for over 20 years and knows all things benefits. If you missed the previous episodes, go check them out. We talked about Blaine's entrepreneurial journey and his experiences there. We talked about things you should be thinking about with wellness and flexibility and benefits. And then we talked about the specialization versus brokerage scale on the last one. So I learned a lot. I'm sure you will too. Go check it out. But now we're going to talk about the future. Blaine's got some cool ideas about where he thinks the future benefits are going. So
sure, yeah. I'll whip out the crystal ball. I do have some ideas, but I think partly because it's top of mind. I watched a show called A Brief History of the Future. I think it's a PBS thing. Okay. And like I think between takes here, we talked about how, if you want to get a little depressed but figure that there's a way out, there might be a way out, then it's a good show to watch. I've only seen a couple of episodes, but it's sort of based on, the world and sort of the environmental changes that we're going through and the restrictions and, COVID and all that stuff. But where do we how do we get out of it? And that's kind of the premise so far. But it dips back to say that you kind of have to look at where it's been. Okay, and so I think I could relate that to the benefits industry. Where did it start? And we talked about how anyone that can fog a mirror can sell life insurance. They can also sell benefits, by the way. But is that the right place to be? I don't think so. And I talked about how that stigma of the industry maybe came from my one grandfather that just knocked on some doors for London Life and sold just life insurance. It's not sexy. It's not what people want to talk about. And it's probably not the right thing in today's world. There has to be true specialist advice. So I think if you look back at that, I think the future of sort of trusted advice is going to come obviously a little more digitally. And we can talk about where the insurance industry and benefits sort of began and where it is now, and where I think some of the players are going to really play well. And it might play well for your company and for companies that are of all sorts of different scales and sizes. And so if you rewind back even, let's say 20 years ago, okay, there was benefit companies out there that sold benefit programs direct. So like the Manulife or Canada Life or Sun Life. Those are the big guys in Canada. And, they do a pretty good job. It's sort of like the banks. You'd think, the banks in Canada, when I switched from CIBC, I went to RBC thinking the grass would be way greener. Yeah. And you're kind of like, oh, they're sort of the same. Yeah. It's like that with benefits, and it sure was 20 years ago. There was no differentiators out there. Sun Life's always been known as a technology leader. Manulife's always been known as a sort of a price leader. And Canada Life's been known as to trying to provide more service, like more sort of soldiers, boots on the ground, that sort of thing. But there's also what's called TPAs, so third-party administrators. And so I think they've got a real important role. And the reason for that is that they have, so the way, and I'll just rewind back to the sort of past of the insurance world, and don't fall asleep on me, because again, it's not sexy. Yeah. But TPAs as third-party administrators, they started off as almost like billing agents. So if you were like a Shaw Cable, for example, you'd have your benefits here and there, but maybe you wanted a specialty EAP product, so employee assistance or counseling. Or you wanted, maybe back even then, they wanted a wellness product. So you ended up with having a benefits program where you wanted best-in-class kind of products, whether it be life insurance or something simple like EAP. And they had a bunch of different bills. And so these TPAs kind of started like almost like a billing agent. And so they put the bills together all in one. And then, you pay that one bill, but they could have different products and mix and match. So fast forward now 20 years to where we are today. TPAs play a really important role, and they're taking away a lot of business from the big guys, and I think that's great. And I think the reason for that is a TPA can also, think of them as a billing agent, so you could now have the best in class for life insurance and disability, so doing the right thing for your staff and leading the horse to water, but you can also have that great flex product in there too, like a lifestyle account. And it can be with different providers. You could have your life insurance with Alberta Blue Cross, and you could have your healthcare through Green Shield or Manulife or whoever. But to you as the business owner and the HR person, or the accounts receivable or payable, or payroll, a lot of folks are payroll that are going to listen to this. You've got one bill. You have now one piece of technology to interact, to add and delete employees, to do that sort of thing. So the technology and how they wrap that product comes into play. So a lot of the TPAs have been spending good money on technology, and I think that's important. And so if we look even at the sort of documentary that I was talking about, The Brief History of the Future, technology was supposed to make our lives easier, but we've become more engaged in sort of, sometimes I wake up in the morning, and I hope my wife doesn't listen, but she's like right on Instagram, and is that enriching our lives? When we get to work where we got to answer 180 emails, is that making our lives easier? Like, if you really look at the world, I think a lot of people are working longer hours and they're staring at their screens a little bit more. So how does the benefits world sort of use that technology to not overwhelm and not try and sell products like we talked about, but maybe actually provide advice? I think TPAs play an important role there, because if you're just engaging with Sun Life, and let's say you want to talk about you're wanting to figure out where to put some money for your retirement savings. Right. Sun Life's going to sell it to you, but they're selling only their product, right? Sure. A TPA, or hopefully brokers, have their own apps that actually get you the product through a TPA, or maybe it's Sun Life or whatever, but it's all encompassing. And then maybe it also helps you make a choice of where you can do some of your savings. And then even go so far as to say, maybe home and auto would be good, but you have choice behind there, and you have sort of good advice. Right. I think that sort of trust can be earned digitally a little bit more. But again, back to the Jerry Maguire moment, is that the right thing to do for your clients? Like, if it's a relationship business, then keep it relationship focused. So I think the future of benefits needs to be a special blend between the technology wrapped around how we interact with our claims, and also our plan administrators, how they're coming on and off, deleting employees and billings and all that stuff. But also, how we interact with our brokers, and how they engage in the relationship to provide the right tools for our clients and the right tools for the staff. And so there's some sort of blend there. Nobody's quite figured it out. A couple of years ago, there's been lots of tech players in the US that have been gobbled up and sort of shut down, that have tried to put sort of a tech wrapping around giving advice. And I think some of them still do. You guys probably heard of Wealth Simple. Have you? Okay, well, I get a nod from the camera.
All right, camera guy says
it's meant to be a super easy spot to park your savings with really low fees.
Okay.
But if you actually figure out, first of all, it's owned by Canada Life and that group of companies. So they're not, they're profit driven, and they're a public company, but you can't quite figure out their fees. I mean, they sort of, you can buy and sell Bitcoin or a stock or an ETF or whatever you want. But then also, you only get your money like 6 hours later, but the market fluctuates, and that's where they make their money. So they could make off one transaction more than sort of $10, which you would normally do on a stock trade. Right. I'm getting off topic, but the point is, do you trust these apps, and how do we get to the future of the relationship based, where the advisor's giving good advice, but we're interacting with technology? And it really boils down to the whole thing. Like, do we trust the Instagrams of the world? The apps that are in our pocket. You do use your Manulife app all the time, probably, if you've got your benefits through it. Yeah. And so they are going to sell you something, and it's going to be their product. So I would hope, and maybe I'm the guy to do it. So if anyone wants to loan me maybe 25 million or something like that, then I will develop an app where, you know, you've got all of that, you've got lots of choices, you have a whole bunch of different products, and then when you ask the right questions, then we sit down, maybe we have that relationship driven where I try to guide you to the right product, because I think, you know, you got to separate the two a little bit, but you also need to marry technology to your life. We all know that it can make things better.
Yeah.
The question is, how does our industry make it better without just, you know, commoditizing it? That is my worst nightmare. And it should be yours too, because if you're just buying products only from banks, and banks are super guilty of this, you walk in for a checking account, you walk out with a credit card, you know? Insurance companies are going to be quite similar, I think, if we're not careful. And so for you as the client, even the employee, you know, make sure that you're asking the right questions, and hopefully you have, you know, a financial advisor for your finances, someone you trust. When it comes to employee benefits, pick the right one as well, where there's a, you know, that element of trust, but the employer generally picks that for you. You as the employee aren't going to have a say in that, but hopefully you work for a great employer and they make good decisions on your behalf, right? Or you're a partner with them.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Blaine, I really want to thank you for taking the time to share your insights with us. If anyone missed previous episodes, we went through Blaine's entrepreneurial journey. We talked about wellness and flexibility and what that really means in the benefits world. We talked about the scale of specialization.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about the future. And I feel like in true Jerry Maguire's style, you're asking like, who's with me?
Yeah, well, who's coming with me? Well, you know, I think, you know, if you want to get a hold of me, it's appreciated. Come with me. But find me on LinkedIn. I've been working on the LinkedIn profile. It's not something I've done in the past. So WellnFlex is the corporate page. WELLN is in Nancy and Flex. All one word, and it's also wellandflex.com. So if you're an HR person, or you're in payroll, or you're a business owner, CFO, you know, you're the type of person I want to talk to, and I'd love to be able to earn that trust through good education and showing you what's out there. So that's where you find me.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. That's a wrap with Blaine. Thanks again for being on the show, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Culture Hack.
Thank you, Adam.